Ed, I'm a 1 or 2 man band outfit. I've got a valuer, a couple of negs, myself, an admin person. What can I do to work smarter in this estate agency market?
Well, obviously, from my point of view, having been an agent, I know what the challenges are for the frontline staff. And from my point of view, the problem I had was that probably 2 days of the week, Saturdays and Sundays, were not really being utilised properly. The problem is, as agents get more experience, the less likely they are to want to work at weekends.
Yes.
Many agents employ weekend staff, or we used to at Douglas and Gordon. The problem was that the Saturday diary, let alone Sunday, was full up by Wednesday for every office. So, and especially as the average age of buyers and tenants gets younger and younger, they don't, and indeed families tend to work 6 days a week these days, so the only day they have off is Sunday. So the reason I set up my business, which is Viewber, we have an outsourced viewing, it's an outsourced viewing service, we have thousands of vetted people all over the UK who can go and do viewings on behalf of estate agents. It's somehow opening up those 2 days of the week. So I would urge anybody who's just starting up to try and make sure that they utilise a service that enables them to project their brand as far as possible. So if it means going beyond their geographical area that they would normally be, if they're a 1 or 2 man band, that's often very difficult to service it. And rather than having your negotiator sitting in the car, a cup of coffee, call the girlfriend, nice sunny day, driving out to a viewing, which can easily take an hour and a half out of their day, why not have them doing something more efficient, mind the database, and let someone like Viewber handle the...
Hold on a second. You're suggesting that someone I've never met, or probably have met, that doesn't know the company, probably doesn't know how to be an estate agent, you're going to let them in loose on one of my properties that I'm going to earn a few £1,000s. That sounds quite...
Yeah, it is. It's a big step, and it's why a number of these business owners we discussed earlier balk at the prospect, because they're putting their brand in someone else's hands, and that can be a risk for people. I get that. As an estate agent, I understand, and we've vetted all our people. We do DBS checks, we do video interviews, etc., etc. We also find, though, that the same Viewber tends to do the same viewings on the same property over and over again, so they get to know the property quite well after the first viewing. And from our point of view, we have found that people get used to it. Once they start using it, they can understand the advantages of it, and they immediately do it more and more and more and more.
So by sending somebody else to do the viewing, you're releasing the negotiator to do the job that they're really paid to do, which is bring deals together, get offers out of people, build relationships. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's certainly an option. I mean, when I first started in this business, and we didn't have Google and the internet, it was important to find out as much information about the buyer as possible. So you went to meet the buyer, and the buyer, you wanted to find out whether they had something to sell, who they were they cashed up.
Do you train these guys to, if they're local owned to sell to train?
We have, obviously the best thing about our Viewbers is that they're local, so they know the local area, probably better than the agents do, because they live there and have lived there for a long time. But I've written a manual for them, so they have to
and do you test them
through
on
this
this
manual. Well, they have the knowledge that they've looked at it, and we have a Viewber community team that does spot checks is the wrong word, but they call them out, see how it's going, and we do update that quite regularly. The agents can also add questions onto that form themselves if they want. But I've definitely found that as time's gone on and the names got better and better, and we don't have large complaints or anything like that, people have thought, well, hang on a minute, this is obviously working. These days, I feel that most negotiators or office managers should be able to get most of the information about a viewer before they even go and see it.
Yes, I agree.
Have you got a mortgage? They Google them. Oh, I see you IPO'd last week, or you did that, or whatever. Congratulations. You can really work on impressing the person who's going to see the property. And it may be then that the second viewing or the third viewing is the one you want the agent to go along to, not necessarily the first viewing, which could be a complete waste of time.
I like that. Sorry, go on, I interrupted.
Well, it's just one of those, it is interesting, because a lot of people think that first viewing is the important one. We actually think, and some of the big agents that we speak to actually use Viewber for the first viewings, but then have their negotiators going on to the second viewing or the third viewing, because that's where they're really going to close the deal.
Have you had any clients that have been able to save, I hate to say this, I'm sorry to the negs out there, save staffing costs?
Well, we're not privy to any of that particular information as to how they use Viewber. What I will say is that there are people out there who we talk to regularly and we clearly want to put into case studies who get a very significant return on investment. There's one company out there that works in London. They cover the whole of London from one office. They spend about £5,500 a month with Viewber. They reckon they get a £40,000 return in terms of fees because they're doing stuff they would never have done before. That's a significant difference.
Yeah, because if you're going from one end of London to the other, I mean, it took me 2 hours to get here today.
Well, it can be an enormous strain. The thing is, it's the bit that most negotiators really like doing, is getting in the car and going out and doing viewings.
Well, it gets you out of the office, away from the boss.
Of course it does, but it's the most inefficient use of a negotiator. You know, so if they're an experienced negotiator and they know the area, they know the people who have been going to look at the properties, they should be trying to get the offers, calling people they've sold for in the past, trying to get deals exchanged, post-sale support. You know, there's a lot of stuff they can be doing which is a lot more effective and efficient than simply sitting in the car.
Well, let's be honest, we outsource our EPCs, we outsource our board. You can get an expert board up, so why don't we outsource, viewings and actually get the people who are professionally, to arrange the offers and get the deals done to do the job they're paid to do.
Well, I can understand the resistance, and I mean, even you yourself there, Chris, were sort of struggling to try and describe it, because it's such a new concept, the idea. I mean, having said it's a new concept, how many companies out there do you know that you've been in where you've talked to the principals or whatever, where they have weekend staff? Lots of people.
Just about everyone.
They all have weekend staff. All we're doing, I mean, for instance,
let's be honest, they don't know what the hell's going on anyway.
Well, precisely. All we are doing is giving everybody the opportunity to have weekend staff at the flick of a button. That's it. It's very, very simple. It's just the ability to do that without having to manage them. Pay as you go, so you haven't got to employ them, put them through national insurance, pay the holiday pay and everything else, have them leave, lots of churn. Just have a local person.
And it's pay as you go. You can pick and choose what you want.
Pure pay as you go. And I mean, we have a number of customers who are now beginning to buy unlimited viewings packs from us. So they buy a number of viewings until the place is sold. There are all sorts of options for stuff. I mean, if you register on our site and have a look, there's you can book a viewer for a whole day, for an hour. One of the best things we do, really, or one of the most popular things, are the half-hour open houses for lettings. For 30 quid plus VAT, you can have a half-hour slot where you can put half a dozen tenants around and it's let. Well, if you can do it on a Thursday evening, when you wouldn't normally want to be doing it, everybody can go around and
that's worth 30 quid.
Yeah, so it's a really, there are certain things which agents are just beginning to think, well, hang on a minute, that makes some kind of sense. But I really get that some people struggle with that, exactly as you put it. Why would I want to send somebody around who's got no idea, I've never met, to represent my brand? Big issue. But as time goes on and we prove our quality more and more and more, and people can see the case studies, I hope they'll understand this is an agent working for agents.
So does the person go around with a business card, with their own business card, or the agent's business card?
They never pretend they're from the agent. They just say, we're here to open the door for you. The way our system works is that when the job goes out, our Viewber accepts the job. The agent that's booked it immediately gets a photograph and their ratings for the last 10 viewings they've done, and their telephone number. And the Viewber then gets the full details of the job, who's coming, and what their telephone number is. So when they turn up, they meet them, they show them around the property. In the booking form is the URL of the property, so they know what they're going to look at. And as I said, the same Viewber tends to do the same viewing on the same property.
And does the Viewber how do we sort the keys out? Do they just always keep the keys, or do they have to go to the agent to pick the keys up?
There are three. Obviously, going to the agent slightly defeats the object. There are three methodologies for us. One is we put a key safe on the property, 50 quid plus VAT, key safe anywhere in the UK the following day. We have a tie-up with a company called Keynest. Keynest have outlets all over the UK, but specifically for Viewber, they will open a Keynest, which is effectively a key box in a late opening supermarket or that sort of thing. They'll open one for us if they need to, or we can have a local Viewber as a key holder, but we don't really like that because it means that the viewing is restricted to that particular key holder. They go away for 2 weeks or a week or a weekend. You don't have the ability. I
like that idea of that little key box that you put outside.
Well, we put it quietly around the back somewhere, so that it's not very obvious. We don't think that it's better to have it quietly placed. But it does revolutionise access, not just for us, but also for the agent and for the contractors, anybody who wants to go around. And there are now these newfangled Bluetooth things where you can just send a one-time only code to someone, so it's only valid for one entry.
Also, it's not one of these. It's all electronic.
Well, most of ours are manual because they're just fire and forget. They're only on there for the length of the sale. We just leave them. As I said, they're fire and forget. But one thing I didn't finish up on is that once the viewer has been in to do the appointment, when they come out, they immediately put the feedback from the viewing, so the questions that I've designed for them to ask,
Yes.
and the agent has added on the bottom. Those go straight back to the agent. So the agent gets feedback via the app
feedback.
immediately, so they know exactly what happened with the viewing. Which of course is all they want. They just want the feedback from the viewing. How long did they spend on the property? Have they got anything to sell? Positive, negative comments, etc., etc.
Well, then the agent can almost ring the person the viewer on the way back home.
Absolutely. That's the entire point of the exercise is that we give feedback immediately on the viewing. So they really can ring them up and say, great, I gather you liked it. Is there anything else we can do? Now that depends. I mean, our busiest days are Saturday and Sunday. So again, all very well getting the feedback, but are they going to do something with it on the Saturday or the Sunday? That's the difference.
At least they've got it. That's up to them then.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Ed.